Alors, bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular public meeting of the City Council on January 25th, 2021. So, without any further delay, our opening word. Dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That being said, I have an announcement to make, a message. The city of Dieppe had taken February in feast. It's different activities that will make you go outside, if we can still go outside, and visit our installation and business people in order to help the local business during this difficult time. Different draw will be held during the month of February. For the first week, we ask you to make us discover the best hot chocolate of the app and the possibility of winning a basket from Adorable Chocolat for a value of $300. I'm told there will be several prizes and different activities that are very interesting, and the details will be shared each week through Facebook and the website of the municipality of Dieppe. So we ask you to subscribe if you have not done so already. We are looking to discover what makes Dieppe unique. We invite you to fill a survey available on our website and our Facebook page. Your participation is important since it will allow to define and identify it. This being said, we hope that we'll have a better month of February than that of January and the last 8, 9, or 10 months. Well, February, it's during Super Bowl. Well, let's go over the discussion for tonight. Go, go winner. All right. Now, the meeting is called to order. We have a confirmation of the quorum. I see there's enough faces on my screen to have a quorum. Everybody is here. Conflict of interest, if there's any to be declared. If you go left to right, it's no. If you up to down, it's yes. No conflict of interest. So we'll adopt the agenda. A motion to adopt, moved by Councilor Cormier, seconded by Councilor Leblanc. On the question, no question. All those in favor say aye.
Oui.
Contrary minded say nay. What is important are the nays, because I believe everybody said yes. The agenda is adopted as presented and as received. So, presentation, inquiries, and petition. 7.1, inquiries by council members to the Kodiak Regional RCMP. Inspector Jolette, I assume, should be here. Good evening, Mr. Jolette. Good evening, all. Is there any members of council that would have comments, inquiries? Even flowers, if you feel, but don't throw the
Moi,
pot, the
j'en aurais,
flower
Monsieur le
pot.
maire.
Your worship, yes, Mr. Snow, go
J'ai des
ahead.
fleurs à donner à
I
la
have
GRC
flowers
parce
to
que
give the
franchement,
RCMP
ils
because
font du
frankly,
beau travail. Puis avec
they're
ce
doing
qu'ils
a
ont fait
good job,
à la
and
ville de
what they
Moncton, devant
did,
l'hôtel de
the
ville, pour
city of
essayer
Moncton in front of City
de
Hall,
mettre
to
les
try
règlements de la
and
santé publique
put the public
en
health
effet
regulation
pour
in force
protéger la santé de
to
tout le monde. Je
protect
trouve
the
que c'est
health
très
of
bien. S'il
everybody.
faut
I
donner des
find
billets,
that
moi, je
it's
suis
very
pleinement
good. We'll
d'accord
have to
pour que
give
le monde
tickets. I agree.
réussisse à
People
obéir les
have
règlements
to
de la santé
obey the
publique, s'il vous plaît.
regulations of public health, please.
Un gros merci à la GRC.
A great thank you to the RCMP. Thank you. I'd like to make a comment on that issue. For those who are not aware, it's been since May that some people uh, go in front of City Hall every Sunday from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. It's been a slow process, but the focus was put on education. But as you saw yesterday, we can only educate people to a certain extent, and then we have to act. If people don't want to or can't learn. But as his worship said, we've been in this for 9 months and there's still a long time to go. So we have to be patient, we have to work together, and we try to follow all the rules and regulations that have been implemented to assure the health of everybody.
Bravo, oui.
Bravo. Very well done. Well said. Any other questions or comments from councillors? No, I see nothing. So, Mr. Inspector Jolet, once again, thank you for your work. It's much appreciated. As always, you're welcome to stay with us if you so wish, but we will understand you have other priorities. Good evening. Thank you, and good evening, everybody. Now for item 7.2, public presentation on the amendments to the municipal development plan. Alexandre Girard, who is with us tonight. Alexandre, good evening. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. You hear? Can you hear me? Yes. I will share my screen. You see my screen? Yes. Good. So we will start with the public presentation for the proposed amendment to the municipal plan. This follows the presentation that the council had this summer as to the new development inside the municipality and also what we did on the proposed changes last week at the standing committee on policies. So the, this is a public presentation for this proposed amendment. We will mention the critical date for the to the municipal plan. And I also want to mention the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. So the deadline are linked one way or the other. You'll be able to see with the dates that are mentioned, and we will teach and we will touch each one of the points as to the proposed amendment to the municipal plan. You will have in front of you the deadline for the prospects to the amendment to the municipal plan. The council made a resolution on January the 11th to fix a date for public meeting and public hearing for the amendment to be brought to the plan on January 15th. We went to get the public notice on the website. We're presently on public presentation on February the 8th. It's the other important date where the people will be invited to visualize the proposed changes to the plan and the fact that we are proposing to have a new development plan. There's several things to be considered. We invite the people to visualize, to look at these amendments, and in the meantime, to communicate with us to become more familiar with the proposed changes, and even to go on the website if you wish to see the changes and the different changes that were proposed. It's a good thing for people to become familiar. On February the 8th, that's when the PAC will look at the question, will make a recommendation to the council on February the 18th for the people to submit their comments as to the changes to the municipal plan. And finally, on March the 8th, that's the date, we fixed the date for the council to look at the different question for the adoption of a new municipal plan. So you have in front of you the link to the website to uh, download the changes to the municipal plan. We invite the promoters or the citizens to go and visualize the document and to make known their comments with the information that is available on the website. The first change that is being proposed refer to better structure the development of multi-family unit lodging. Following what we had this summer, the trends are towards what is being developed more and more multi-family dwellings, and we see the opportunity of better structuring them and to make sure that the multi-family dwelling better integrate with the existing structure inside the municipality. So what is in red is what we're proposing to add to the municipal plan. Well, the reading, the council wants to assure that the new development of multifamily dwelling respect the design criteria of the municipal plan so that they standardize with the defined character. It would be in order to better add the criteria, the urban design to offer a direction for a new family dwelling. The following things should be considered. Multifamily should be oriented to have a greater frontage of the building and the front face, when possible, towards the public street to better establish a relationship with the public life, to valor what is, and to establish a better facing. And it should be created to a front and for the new multifamily should incorporate architectural, high quality architectural to put forward the public domain. So this is a proposal that we are making to the council to try and lift the quality of the buildings and to bring out the way the buildings are integrating in the existing sectors. And this language would be used to make the interpretation if ever we would have to have a variance for future project and if we need an interpretation. So it's languages that would be used to do the interpretation once there would be a request for a variance to change the building in some way or another. Is there any question on this principle so far? Question from the councillors. Mr. Cormier, thank you, Your Worship. In the a multi-family building should be oriented if the size or if the frontage of the property on the land does not accommodate, it's not an obligation, if I understand correctly. Now, what we're proposing here, and we will talk about it on February the 8th when we talk with the amendment that will be brought to the plan, it would be a requirement, but we're proposing that requirement, knowing very well that yes, there will be sometimes when we'll have to bring a variance, we'll have to reconsider derogation, and because there is no way. But generally speaking, the objective here is to orient the big frontage of a building towards the street, because it will give there'll be a better relationship between the building and the public street. We won't have any side of a building. Effectively, when the building could be reoriented to have a long frontage on the public street. To answer your question once again, yes, uh, we are putting forward a proposal knowing very well that at any given time there will be variances, and we do it that if some proposals are reasonable and they meet the intention of this proposal, of course they will be considered favorably. But at the present time, it is our proposal. Thank you. Could I have a complimentary question, Your Worship? Yes. On February 17th, all the persons interested can bring their complaint to the PAC, the Planning Advisory Commission. No? While the complaints, usually when it comes to an amendment to the zoning bylaw or the development plan, yes, it's for you. Because you are the one who make a decision on this file, for instance. The Planning Advisory Commission members make a recommendation to you. That's where it's important. If the people have comments or worries or concerns, they should make them, send them to the clerk office, and the clerk office then can send them to you, to the councillors, to be read on February the 8th. For any comments that would come in after February the 8th, we will receive the comments and we'll make an analysis of the comments we've received, and we can send a list or summary of the comments uh, once the council is ready to have a first and second reading of the bylaw. Thank you. Thank you.
Ouais.
Mr. Snow.
Merci, M. le maire.
Followed by
Mr.
Thibodeau.
Girard,
Thank you, Worship. Mr.
je
Girard,
trouve que c'est très important
I find that it's very
avoir
important
ceci en place. Puis
to
c'est aussi
have
très important
this
de
implemented
garder
in
la
place,
sécurité
but it's
de nos
important to keep
développeurs
the
aussi.
safety
La
of our
possibilité que
developer,
les autres se sentent
the
coincés
possibility
peut-être
that they
serait
feel
quelque chose qu'on devrait considérer.
trapped. Maybe it's
J'aime
something
la
we should
partie où
consider,
c'est
but I like
marqué entre
the part
parenthèses,
where
quand
it's in
c'est
bracket,
possible, on fait notre
whenever
possible pour
possible, we
la
do
grandeur du terrain, pour
whatever
le bloc
possible
appartement ou
for
l'habitation
the
qu'il va avoir là.
size of the
Mais la
property,
grande façade
but
de
the big
l'édifice soit
frontage
sur
of the
la rue
building
quand c'est possible.
be on
Mais
the street
si
when
on a déjà
possible.
fait un plan
But if we've
où on
already
a deux
made
blocs
a plan
appartements
where
sur
we
un
have two
terrain,
apartment
puis
blocks
qu'on change la
on a
direction,
property and we change the
ça,
direction,
c'est-tu permis?
is that allowed?
Si c'est déjà été
If
approuvé,
it's
est-ce que
been
ça peut
already
être
been
changé?
approved, can it be changed? Can we change it? Well, it becomes a question that is hard to answer because it will depend where we're at in the process. Uh, did they apply for uh, change? It'll be case by case. If at the end of the day he came to get a development plan permit and he received the okay from the city, he'll have a right if he already got the permit, the
Oh,
license before the change. I think what is important here, well, it may be to consider if the proposal will affect
futur.
the future towards the requests that are made right
Oui,
now or are already underway. So it's really to look at a
formidable. Je
future
trouve que c'est
development.
très bien. Puis le
Fantastic.
fait
I
qu'on
find that it's
n'abandonne pas
great.
nos
The
développeurs
fact
parce
that
qu'on
we
leur
abandon
laisse
our
une petite
developers, we
ouverture,
leave
où
them
ça
a
dit
small
quand
opening
il est possible
when
de
it's
faire
possible
le changement.
to
Puis
make a
aussi
change.
que si
And
ça a
also,
déjà été
if
approuvé,
it's already
que
been
leur plan a
approved,
déjà été
well,
approuvé,
if
puis
their
tout a
plan
été
has been
commencé,
approved and
que la
everything has
ville
been
respecte
started,
ça aussi. Je
the
trouve que c'est
city will
formidable.
respect
Donc,
that. I find that it's
je vois que
fantastic.
ça devrait bien
So
aller.
I think it
Merci.
should be okay. Thank you. Mr. Thibodeau, followed by Mr. Brideau.
Monsieur Thibodeau, votre
Mr. Thibodeau,
Monsieur Thibodeau, voilà.
OK, ça va? Oh,
There.
merci, Monsieur le maire.
thank you, Worship.
Monsieur Girard,
Mr. Girard,
lorsque vous avez répondu à Monsieur Cormier,
earlier when you answered Mr. Cormier, about the PAC
que c'était pour
that
qui pouvions intervenir là.
it was we are the ones that can
Je le sais si bien que
intervene.
c'est
I
les
thought the
citoyens
meeting of the
qui
PAC
pouvaient
was public,
décider.
that the public could attend.
Je me trompe
Am I right? Am I wrong? No. Well, what I meant was essentially that yes, effectively, it can be open to the public, but if the member of the of the committee make a recommendation to the council for a regulation project, the objections and comments should be sent to the council and not towards the members of the PAC. If the people want to look at the steps being followed, of course, it can be done. But at the end of the day, the members of PAC, they have a responsibility to make a recommendation, and the comments and the objectives that are raised by the residents or by the promoters should be sent directly to you as members of council. Okay,
d'accord, une autre question,
another
une
question,
clarification ici.
a
Lorsque vous dites que
clarification. When you say
l'habitation familiale devrait être
that the
orientée
family
vers la
housing should
public
be
street,
oriented
dans le
towards the
fond,
public street, in the case
l'habitation multifamiliale
where the
est
multifamily
sur un
dwelling
coin de rue.
is on the corner of a street,
Par exemple,
for instance,
celui qui est en train de se construire
the one that
sur
is being
Boulevard
built
Nathalie et
now
Boulevard
at the
Dieppe,
corner of Boulevard Dieppe and Nathalie Street.
l'entrée pour se rendre
The
là va
entrance
être
to
sur
go to the building will be on Nathalie.
Est-ce que ça veut dire
Does
qu'il
that
faut
mean that the
se porter
building
vers la
should
Nathalie
be
ou
oriented
vers le
towards
boulevard?
Nathalie or towards the Dieppe Boulevard? Well, in the case of a corner, just choose a frontage, whether it's Dieppe or Nathalie. It will depend on, it will be the choice of the developer. So in any case where there's a corner, the promoter can decide where he wants to face the front, the side to face. It'll be up to him, and it's just a matter of choosing one frontage, public streets that will meet the requirements.
Merci de la clarification.
Thank you for
Moi,
the
j'aurais une
clarification.
suggestion à faire
I
suite
would have a
aux
suggestion
commentaires
following all the
et les
comments
appels qu'on a eus
or
des
the calls
développeurs.
that we've received from
Ça n'est pas
developers.
possible
Would it not be
de
possible
rencontrer
to
un groupe de
meet
développeurs pour
a
pouvoir
group of
expliquer
developers to explain to them
le changement, le bien fondé du changement,
the change,
plutôt
the
que
good
d'entendre des bribes
being,
d'informations qui
instead of
sont
hearing peace,
d'accord.
peace here and there, and they don't
C'est une bonne
always agree because they're not aware of the decisions. Absolutely. Well, it's a very good question. We invite the developers to communicate directly with us. We have the intention of explaining the logic behind the proposal that we will put forward to the zoning bylaw. As it was mentioned, the proposal that we are making today and later on February the 8th with the zoning bylaw, it follows the trends. And we make proposals to try and improve the context of several development inside the municipality. As I've mentioned before, uh, we have more and more uh, row housing, multi-family dwelling people who wants to develop private access to have more than one building on a given lot. We are starting to have more and more of these applications, and we see that maybe there is an opportunity here to realign things somewhat, but we're not trying to block off all development, but we want to inform you as a council that certain things should be considered to make sure that there is a goodwill of the development within the municipality. The objective is to be transparent with everyone, the council, the citizens, as well as the developers. We have a guide of changes that explain the proposed changes to be made. If the developers have questions, if they want to object to these proposals, well, there again, we invite them to write a letter to the council so that it be considered by you, the decision makers, once we're at the step of making a decision. In the meantime, we are open to receive their feedback so as to give them at least the perspective on things to happen. Mr. Brito is next. Your worship, I just want to add, if I may,
On va prendre la question de M. Brideau. Puis
I will take Mr. Brito's question, and after that,
ça sera au conseiller.
and then it will be to Councillor Leblanc. Monsieur Brito,
Allumez votre microphone, M. Brideau.
open your mic.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
You hear me? Yes?
Alors, je vais revenir sur un détail que
I want to
M. Thibodeau vient de mentionner.
come back on something Mr. Thibodeau just mentioned
La possibilité que les
concerning the possibility that developers can have their say and can meet us to discuss as a committee or whatever you want.
j'aimerais de mentionner, c'est que
What I'd like to say, Mr. Girard,
passé le 8 mars, une fois que l'échéance
after March the 8th, once the deadline has been reached,
on va respecter
will we respect the contract or the projects that are undertaken by the developers?
soumis leur projet, peut-être
Those who have submitted their project 4, 5, 6 months ago, they're ready to get going. Will we force them with this new project to change all their planning? Well, at the present time, these are things that I would like to consult internally before I have an answer for you. But as I explained to Councillor Astano, it will be case by case, will depend where they're at with the process in the development and the construction. If it's at the very beginning of the design stage and they have not yet submitted anything formal to the municipality, well, of course, at the present time, we can't come with a very final answer. Thank you. There's no doubt that, according to what I heard, the comments I've received from a few developers, they want to meet us, they want to talk about it, and they want to be heard. And just to add on this, we see an opportunity that it's a process. It's a process, an amendment process that is important, but we want to hear from all the residents also. We really put a value on what their citizens have to say. And often they have something to say, and we invite everybody to share their opinion because the proposal that we are making at the present time will have an impact on the sectors that exist presently within the municipality and the owners that exist already. We're open to hear all point of views. Thank you. One more, followed by Monsieur Leblanc. Monsieur President, to your worship, I want to add question by Mr. Thibodeau that Alexandre and I and the planning officers, we've met over six developers, if not seven. We went through all the amendments with them. We had one developer. He had more objections to what we were proposing, but we've had good comments from the others. They saw what we were aiming to do and the vision for Dieppe. And it's just to say that we've met several developers already in going through the documents. So it's not, for most, it's not information that they see for the first time. We sat with them, we explained the vision, we explained the changes. As I say, majority of comments were positive, and I can tell you that that was done.
Si bien, monsieur,
Thank you, Monsieur Leblanc.
monsieur
Merci,
Leblanc.
Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Question qu'on semble voir,
A question that we seem
voir plus régulièrement.
to see
Question de stationnement
on
des
a regular
véhicules
basis, it's parking,
plus ou moins les
more or less
résidences
a
multifamiliales.
multi-family dwelling.
Sur des grands matériels,
I understand on huge street it's not a problem, but
d'édifices de
when they have
construction,
one or two buildings on the same property,
stationnement
we
sur
seem to have a parking problem. I don't know
stationnement
if we can look at the ratio of parking per unit, because you see,
un exemple,
we have an example
boulevard A puis boulevard Dieppe, là,
on Dieppe Boulevard. When
la
we
plupart du temps,
look on
là,
Belforêt, or
les stationnements semblent
the
avoir
parking are full,
les stationnements semblent se faire
and the
sur la
parking seems to be
est-ce qu'on peut
on the
regarder
street.
le
People
ratio
park on the street.
par
Can we look at the ratio of parking per unit? We can certainly look at the ratio, but at the present time, we don't foresee any problem. We foresee more of a problem with the fact that some development have more than one main building on the same lot. That's the problem that we try to clarify. These are developments that exist more and more. You've had it as a council and an application for change in zoning, and they try to maximize the more unit or housing per. It's a little bit the direction of the proposals that we are making. These are things to consider. So if a property is zone 3 and is allowed multifamily dwelling, well, do we want to allow more than one building on a lot? Because we have to leave things on their own and allow for things to breathe. Well, in my opinion, it will make things more foreseeable for people who live in existing sectors and they see multifamily dwelling come in their backyard. So when it comes to the question of parking, well, we if we did not make a proposal to change the ratio, but more it's more than three building per lot that we see as a problem more than anything else. Because right now,
un promoteur vient avec
when a promoter comes with a multifamily dwelling,
tout de suite,
well, immediately we're all aware that the majority of residences have at least one, if not more, car per parking for the parking. And when we look immediately, if people want to have a 26 or 30 unit for the parking, do we have a ratio that is being used? Because it's all the same thing as you were saying, Monsieur Chalard. If the would have a tendency to maximize the property, more unit on a given lot, but we have to keep in mind that there's enough parking to stay within the lot and not to park on the street. We've seen it on Belfort Street recently. You bring a good point here because I think there's a lot of things to consider. If we required more parking for a promoter, it may solve certain things. But nevertheless, we'd have to consider the impact that it would have on the property, where there would be more asphalt, more pave used on a lot to have more parking spaces. So it will help the conservation and the multifamily dwelling. Well, we want them to be concentrated on arterial road where there's more access to the public transport. So if we go in the direction to help the developer to have more parking, maybe it will have the contrary effect that we're trying to have. Encourage people to use the public transport to let the property or the lot breathe and to have more space. So I leave you with this thought, and you're bringing a good point. But on the other hand, we have to encourage the other mode of public transport.
Merci, Monsieur Mélenchon.
Monsieur Blanson,
Monsieur le maire, membre du
your
conseil,
worship, member of
nous
council,
avons
we have
adopté
something that was undertaken by resolution by council
alors
on
ceci
January the 11th. So
présentation
tonight,
publique
it's a
qui a été
public
préparée
presentation that was prepared by the staff,
cette
and
information.
we still have more information to share.
Ceci, ça
We
a des
understand
effets
that
possibles
this has possible impact on the developers. We invite them
j'ai
to
entendu
send.
par les
I have
collaborateurs
one objection to read later on
de
this, to
configuration.
take all
Noter ceci, donc,
information in consideration.
envoyé à la
All the
municipalité.
information has to be written and sent to the municipality, and to make it more transparent, this is an opportunity for the citizens to be informed on what is happening with the proposed changes. We must have a developer with dialogue with the we have to preserve the ward. We are interested to have meeting with the developers. We can talk to them. We can better understand their concern when we do it as a group. One or two per person talk, and we don't have an opportunity to hear everybody around the table. But during this pandemic, individual, virtual or in person, both are possible. We're interested in meeting everybody, those who want to have clarification. A lot of things are positive. Certain things make us change. We have to call to order. We have a step to follow. There's another opportunity where you can ask more questions in the process, and the developers can do it also. So we can debate for a long time. But there's still a presentation that is not completed, and it's part of it. Thank you, Mr. Cadet. Thank you, Your Worship. I have two questions, simple, so that we don't go too long. I'd like to ask them, and when a developer has a large project, an important project, and it comes on a private street or there's other buildings, the question of the frontage is not compulsory because they are behind the frontage. Is that true? Not sure if I followed the question. Generally speaking, there will be one building per lot. So a building with the proposal we're making, if a building is on a property, the long side should be oriented towards the public street. As I said, there will be specific case with existing cases where the lot is already created and this and that, and we'll have the small side on the public street. We understand that. But the Planning Act give a mechanism of variance when it's possible. I'm not sure if I followed the question when the building is behind another building. Well, sometimes we have a project, it's a private lot that it starts at the building, but you have building in the back. That was my comment more than anything else. Well, that's the proposal we're trying to make, to try and go and get more order in the development where the development will have to be made on public street instead of private access. Private access, that's another proposal we'll make to you, but it's a new tendency that developers go more and more in tendency of having private open when they have when it's hard to have a public street. The public street, it's a piece of infrastructure that is the responsibility of the building. It's managed by the building, and most infrastructure are managed by the municipality. So it becomes the piece of infrastructure can be well managed in the past, but it can be a challenge maintenance wise or as well for for the municipality and anybody else. The second question has to do with the words whenever possible. Does it mean that each time a developer who comes and we see it's not possible to do exactly what the amendment is asking for, does he need to come back to the council for a variance, or can the committee do it on their own? What the language you have in front of you is for our interpretation when we make a recommendation to the planning advisory committee. So it will not be a question that the council will look at it again, but the planning advisory committee will look at it. If we have a project that submits something that is against that principle and we feel that it's not reasonable, well, we will not recommend the project because there is an opportunity of accommodating itself or accommodating the project. But if there is another opportunity, well, of course, we'll be reasonable. And based on the scenario that is being proposed, we will recommend it if it's reasonable. All right. Thank you. Thank you. This being said, well, on the presentation is not. Oh, there's two or three things to go through. So I will go through this text quickly. We've mentioned this. A new principle will be added. So it's to create, you will hear a new zone that we want to create downtown. So the text you have in front of you is to structure while this new zone that will be named residential urban that will give the opportunity to the promoter close to downtown to have a slight increase in density. So it's a text to structure the creation of that new zone within the zoning bylaw, and we'll go more details on February the 8th to give you what properties will be affected more than the others. It'll be to give you the details, more or less. So we are suggesting to delete the commercial uh, area. There were two on Boulevard Dieppe, uh, commercial quarters needed standard of design that were more dense and towards the Dieppe Boulevard on the commercial carrefour, and the requirements was the minimum of two stories when it's a commercial building. So we suggest to eliminate them, these buildings, and the requirements will be redistributed within the uh, planning development to make it look better. So a proposal that we want to make here, and it's there to structure the multifamily dwelling. This is a proposal following the discussion we've had with the developers. So it would be to allow the multifamily dwelling south Yvonne Street and the property that would be located north of Yvonne on Dieppe Boulevard. Well, we would force business on the main floor. So if a property was situated along the Dieppe Boulevard and there was a zoning CM, the promoter would be allowed to have a multifamily dwelling on without business on the main floor. And if there was a property along the Dieppe and it's CM, he would have to keep his building on the main floor. the changes here to the map affecting the soil. We propose to make an amendment to proximity of Melanson Road or Dieppe Boulevard. It's a property that is on R4 with residential. We suggest to change the two properties so that it have a commercial vocation and you see we'll try to rezone R4 to CM to have business and at Boulevard at Dieppe if the people want to develop multifamily dwelling they can do so. They may do so. Here it's just to change to accommodate an existing facility. It's at Sainte Croix Street. It's multifamily that exists already. We're proposing to change the affectation of the soil to downtown. That will be a zone downtown. Now it's R2. And it's a proposal that we're making for existing situation. We're proposing to extend somewhat the affectation of downtown for two portion of land to accommodate a project that is underway at the present time to accommodate this project here. So the change would be residential to downtown, and there will be a change to the zoning bylaw that will be proposed. Here it's a rezoning that you have seen at the corner of Jacques and Amiro. The property remain community use. We're proposing to change the affectation of community use to residential, and the zoning bylaw had been changed, but it's simply to have a change. So once again, the deadline, read myself February the 8th. The presentation will be longer than today, unfortunately. So there will be more content, more pictures, more details that the council will be able to consider and to debate and ask questions. There again, we invite people from the community to submit their comments, their objections to the clerk's office at this address that you see here. The people have until February the 5th to send the comments, their comments to the zoning bylaw and for the amendment to the planning until February the 18th. If the council, if you want to take the comments to extend them, you have a right to do so. But at present time, it's it's a practice that uh, we follow the dates that are prescribed by the Planning Act. This concludes the public presentation. If there's more questions, we're ready to answer them.
Est-ce que notre directeur général doit faire la lecture
Our manager has to read the
une objection déjà
one objection. Said it. Yes, we've received today the first objection. Z9 2017 5. Your worship, councillors, find enclosed the details of our objections for the element of 2.1A and to 1.1B, 2.1A. The criteria proposed for the building with the frontage could have a negative impact on the feasibility of some projects on some subdivision. The secretary in the past, several multifamily dwelling could not have been built if this had been. We should specify when it's possible. And 2.1B, as a developer, I have to maintain some freedom in the material that is being used, the conception and the design of the building. It's important for us to building some housing that are varied value according to the ward, the population, and the kind of structure. These two elements is removed and brought later on, considering the pandemic, it would be advantageous to wait to have a discussion in person between the promoters and the city of Dieppe. Thank you in advance, Mr. Bouchard, Mother Louis Landry, uh, Vice President. This will be put in the file, Your Worship. Thank you. This brings us to the next, Your Worship. I have a question, if I may, on on this issue. Yes,
OK, question?
question? Thank you, Worship. It has to do with what Mr. Girard just said on the deadline. There's a lot of changes to zoning bylaw, and a lot of people will be involved. We saw that on the last two slides that were presented. My opinion, I find that a delay for 2 weeks for our residents after today to February the 8th is not reasonable, in my opinion. I know it's the standard, but during a COVID, are people aware of these changes? And for transparency, uh, I'm not saying to push it off forever, but something more reasonable. Uh, at least a month, maybe. We push it off for 2 weeks. That's my point of view. I would have liked to see a longer deadline between today and the date. Madam Councillor, there is extension. We'll have the information on February the 8th for your consideration.
Si,
Thank you.
question du public.
Question from the public.
Notre vaste public.
We're great public.
Virtuellement, on n'a pas la
Virtually, we don't have the capacity of doing it. Huh? Monsieur Degg? No. We received no question from the public.
Alors, pour l'adoption du procès verbal de
Adoption of the minutes of the last meeting on January the 11th.
Cormier,
A
appuyé
motion, Mr. Cormier, seconded by Madame Arsenault. On the question,
aucune question.
no question.
Alors, ceux qui sont en faveur
All those in favor say aye
janvier,
to adopt the minutes of January the 11th.
l'avis contraire par
Contrary minded say nay.
Alors, le procès verbal de la réunion
The minutes for the meeting of January the 11th is adopted.
item 10 du côté
10.
10.1 du côté
10.1 finance.
10.1.1 fusion
10.1.1 merging of taxing authorities. Your worship, it's a complete title, but to simplify things, on June 2016, the municipal council at that time gave a directive to merge the territory of two LSD in the parish of Moncton and the LSD of Squiddock and Shediac. So at the other side, towards Shediac, we merged the territory, and in this plan, we submitted to the province a method spread over 5 years of catch up for taxing purposes. So in 2021, we are doing the catch up, so the rate of taxing is the same as for the municipality. So here is the term that is used to do the merging of taxing authorities, according to an article that is proposed by local governance to integrate and have one municipal taxation. Throughout the process, every year there were increases to essentially bring us to the municipal tax rate during the last 5 years. 5 years, yeah. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. That council authorized the chief financial officer to take the necessary steps to merge the taxing authorities 602.03 Dieppe outside exterior to the taxing authority 602.01 Dieppe in order to have one single authority. I so move. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brito. Other question?
aucune question.
No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay.
Alors, 10.1
Carry 10.1.1 is adopted. It brings us to 10.1.2. Mr. Melanson.
plusieurs années, la municipalité
For many years, the municipality has put some efforts on the development of plans, on plan development. This started with the implementation on the gas tank between the province and municipality. Well, some assets were asked to be eligible. You have in front of you 5 summary of active that meet the obligation that we gave ourselves. And we work with a project with FCM to establish our first plan of asset management. And when we implemented it in 2019, this 9/11, that was inside this that stipulates the government, the inventory, evaluation of risk, climatic change, and the evaluation of state, analysis of costs, financial establishment of priorities. All these elements are considered when we develop our plan. And in November 2018, we received an email from the local governments to make sure that our plan met the requirement that were required at that time. The plan that we are proposing today is a continuity of the efforts that started a few years ago. So, but to allow us to keep improving our plan to obtain um, as much as possible. So the financing of FCM allow us to take some advance. The second requirement, which is a plan for this year, you have a summary that is annexed to the resolution for the active plan, transportation, water and storage, the fleet, the equipment and building, and is for your approval tonight. Thank you for the reading of the resolution. Ms. Arsenault.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Que le Conseil adopte les 5
The
plans de
council
gestion des
adopt the
actifs suivants.
following
Plan de gestion des
asset
actifs
management,
transport, plan
asset
de gestion
management
des actifs
transportation,
eau et égouts,
asset management
plan de
plan water and
gestion des
storage,
actifs
asset
flotte,
management
plan
plan
de
fleet,
gestion des actifs
asset management
installations
plan
récréatives, équipements
recreational
informatiques
facilities,
et
information,
ameublement,
technology
et
equipment,
plan de gestion des
and
actifs
for
bâtiments. Je le propose,
asset
Monsieur
of
le Maire.
management plan building. I move by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Leblanc on the question. Question, Ms. Leboutier. Thank you, Worship. And by the way, I want to congratulate the consulting firm that was hired. Our citizens are lucky to have such transparent management in plans that are as descriptive as this. It's well done. My question that I have based on this, they will, but I see, well, we all have a global picture of our assets in the different zones. It's different, 5 different zones, and we, based on that, nowhere is there a scale. Where will we take this? What it is now? What brings me to this question? Sorry, I'm jumping. Recreational, when we said there was a big percentage that was in red. So now we have the what exists, and then we'll make the changes. Manager, we have the plan, we have the information in order to plan. Well, we will invest some money according to our capacity. So it's a plan, it's our guide for the financial planning. Thank you very much. That's it. Other question? All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded nay. Carried as presented. That brings us to the next item.
Non, excusez-moi, le ponceau sur la
Sorry, the Lorette Street. Yes, you have in front of you a recommendation to obtain the engineering services to work on, to replace the covert on Lorette. And this will be a conceptual plan and to see to the building in 2022. That's the recommendation. And we ask a transfer that were identified. Thank you for the reading of the resolution, Mr. Thibodeau.
Ouais, ça ira mieux avec
It would go better with the mic open. Thank you, Your Worship, that Council authorized Roy Consultants to undertake the engineering services for the project entitled a culvert replacement audit at a cost of $65,000 plus HSE and authorize that this expenditure be deferred from account number 3-3-35-58-7682 general capital budget culvert Lorette Street. That council authorized a budget transfer in the amount of $40,000 from account number 7-4-20-12-8920 General Capital Reserve Fund to account number 3-3-35-58-7652 General Capital Budget Culvert Lorette Street. I so move, Your Worship.
Proposé par le conseiller
Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Lemoutier. On the question,
Sur la question,
on the
Monsieur.
question, Monsieur Leblanc.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Lorsqu'on a fait notre plan pour le projet capitaux,
When we did the plan for the capital expenses, did we mention the culvert on Lorette or did that come afterwards?
Monsieur Thériault est
Monsieur Thériault
sur l'appel, je pense. Alors, je pense
is
que
on the
c'est
call,
en même
it's on the
temps.
phone. It's planned for 2022. Mrs. Spencer, hello, Your Worship. Yes, that project initially was planned for 2021, but the replacement was put off for 1 year. So it's the only change. It figured last year and it's still figured this year, but the production will only be
OK.
done in 2022.
Ma mémoire me faisait faute parce que je me souvenais pas d'avoir eu
I'm-
le projet du pont.
I didn't remember having seen the project of the culvert in 2021, but it was there. Thank you.
Question?
Any other question?
Une autre question? Alors, ceux qui sont en faveur.
No other question. All those in favor say aye.
Pas
Contrary minded, nay.
Alors, la résolution est adoptée.
Resolution is carried as presented. That brings us to item
12, excusez-moi, l'item 11, 11.1.
11.1.
Z10.
Bylaw Z-10 2017 13 bylaw amending the zoning bylaw of City of Dieppe to read in its entirety, followed by third reading by title only.
Leblanc, peut-être?
Monsieur Leblanc, maybe, for the reading in its entirety.
Certainement, Monsieur le maire. Arrêté numéro
Thank you,
10,
bylaw number Z-10
13,
2017 13 bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe bylaw, zoning bylaw. Council of City of Dieppe under the authority vested in the City of Dieppe decreed as follows. The City of Dieppe bylaw being Z10 2017 enacted on the 11th day of September 2017 and registered in Westmoreland at number 70503 on November 3rd and amended as follows. Schedule A entitled City of Dieppe zoning map. Whenever it is mentioned in the of the zoning bylaw and amended in the attached as Schedule A-12, I so move. Move by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Cormier on the question.
Vous avez une question, Monsieur
You have a
Brideau?
question, Monsieur Brideau?
Non? OK.
No? Okay.
S'il n'y a pas de question, ceux qui sont en
If there's no
faveur,
question, all those in favor
de la-
of
excusez-moi, de la lecture dans son
the
intégralité
reading in its entirety
du zonage,
of zoning bylaw, say aye.
oui. Contraire par un non.
Contrary minded, say nay. No.
Pardon?
Les-
C'est non contre la
Ah,
résolution,
I say no, please,
comme expliqué la dernière fois.
as I explained the last time. Thank you.
Alors, non sera noté.
No will be noted, and it's adopted by the majority of council in third reading in its entirety.
Lecture intégrale.
In its entirety. Now let's proceed with third reading by title only.
Encore une fois, Monsieur Leblanc.
It's again Monsieur Leblanc, Mr. Leblanc. Thank you, Worship Bylaw number Z-10 bracket 2017-13. Bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. I move in third reading by title only.
Proposé par le conseiller
Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Cormier.
que l'on accepte la-
That we accept bylaw
en troisième et dernier
third and final reading by title. All those in favor say aye. It's reminded nay.
Non.
No. No is registered for Mrs. Lemoutier. And the The resolution is carried by the majority of councillors.
Alors,
So,
avis de motion,
motion,
vous n'avez reçu
notice of motion, we didn't receive anything. And
demande de renseignement et
inquiries or announcement by the councillors, members of council.
On va commencer avec Madame Le Boutier.
Let's start with Mrs. Boutier at the end of the table.
Que j'ai en avant de moi, évidemment.
The empty tables in front of me. Thank you, Worship. Tonight, I would have two small questions for the manager, the administrator.
Le déneigement,
The snow removal,
on l'a dénommé l'autre fois. Là,
we name it the culvert
dans le
in the causeway,
Dans le marais,
le marais,
in the marsh.
on peut se rendre à la piste.
We can go to the
Pourquoi
riverfront
c'est pas déneigé?
trail. Why is it not snow removed or clean? This is a project that we have in the radar for 2021 to replace the culvert so that the piece of equipment can go over the culvert. We had that in the radar last year, but the financial capacity did not allow us to do so. It's something we will realize in 2021 to be able to do it standard that our snow removal equipment can do it. It'll be easier for accessibility. Is it possible to remove the snow that up to there? Mr. Burke, are you here?
Avant cette neige ici, là, les dernières fois, puis
Before the snow, and it was not clean. Is it because of COVID, or why was it not snow removal? Monsieur, yes, Worship. I'll have to check. It's a private road, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll check. And I don't think it's part of the snow removal plan, but I'll check. Thank you. It's it's interesting to have access and whatnot. Thank you very much. And the other, maybe we talk about it in the past. I wish we would look at what is coming this spring. Toilet for the Dover Park for all the people. There are new new kinds that seem reasonable. I've seen them. Our neighbors are using it in the middle of the forest. I would like to give you the idea to see what can be done. I'll send you some photographs. That's all for me for tonight. Your worship, thank you.
C'est noté, monsieur le
Noted, Mr. Administrator, Ms. Arsenault.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, worship.
Tout à l'heure, j'ai donné des fleurs aux polices,
Earlier,
à
I
la
gave
GRC
flowers to
pour
the RCMP.
des personnes qui ont eu des billets
For
pour les anti-masques. là.
Those who
Ils veulent
received
pas mettre
some
leur masque
tickets
et
for
garder la sécurité de
anti-mask
tout le monde.
and to keep the
On soit
safety
bien,
of
tout en
everybody.
santé. Mais il y a
We will
aussi
be
un
well
autre
in
aspect
good
que les
health, but there
polices
is
méritent des
another aspect
félicitations dessus.
that the police
C'est
should be
anti-drogage.
congratulated. It's
Parce que,
anti-drug.
comme vous savez, il y a eu un
As
gros,
you
pas ça
know,
qu'on appelle un major bust
there was a
dans notre
major
région où
bust
il y
in
a eu
our
9
region
locations dans nos
where
3
there were
communautés. Il y
9
en avait 7 à Moncton, une à
areas,
Dieppe et une à Riverview qui avaient
7 in
été
Moncton, 1 in Dieppe, 1 in
affectées.
Review that were
Et avec
affected.
ça, moi, j'ai
But
toujours été contre
with
les
that,
drogues
I've
illicites et
always
je suis
been
encore contre les
against
drogues illicites.
heavy
Puis je
drugs, and
félicite
I'm
la
still.
GRC
And I
pour
congratulate
essayer
the
de
RCMP
protéger
for
notre
trying to
population.
protect our
Un gros
population.
merci. Bonne semaine
Huge
et
thank you.
soyez saufs.
Good week and be safe. Thank you, Mr. Arsenault, Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you, Worship. I have nothing for tonight. Thank you. Monsieur Leblanc. Monsieur Brideau, I'm sorry.
Bon, merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Worship.
J'aimerais
Well,
juste féliciter
I would like to congratulate our employees for street maintenance, the sidewalk. I received congratulations from people in my ward, but these thanks, I want to send them off to our employees. They're doing a great job. Luckily, we don't have a major winter to really tire our employees out, but the basic work, the streets are clean. my hat is off to all the employees, maintenance. And I want to congratulate the people also because I
Marche beaucoup.
walk a lot in my ward with people from my ward, and I see that the distance is respected,
Le port du masque
and the mask, the wearing of the mask is present.
des rencontres
Everybody that I meet, we share comments from head to toe, and it's worthwhile tonight to mention the work that people are doing, the patients, because contrary to for a group of people who swear not to use the mask in front of City Hall in Moncton. Congratulations to the people of Dieppe for a good example. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Monsieur Leblanc now.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
À notre jour, la sortie sur
An
la rue
update, the exit on Louis Street. Where is it at? Where are we with that? The exit on Mrs. Spencer.
La semaine passée.
I saw a lot of work last week.
Bonsoir, Madame Spencer.
Good evening, Miss Spencer. Hello, Miss Your Worship. I will check and I come back with the answer. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me tonight.
ça semblait que le sol est en train
It seems that the soil, the ground is moving.
de bois.
I think it's a big wooden post that is being moved.
On va vérifier.
We'll check. I'll check and I'll come back to you.
Je pense qu'il y en a
Thank you.
plusieurs d'entre nous qui ont vu la même chose.
There's a lot among us who said the same thing. We'll have the details. Thank you. Something else, Monsieur Leblanc. No, that's it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Monsieur Cormier.
Mr. Cormier.
Merci, monsieur.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Moi, j'aimerais d'inviter les gens.
I would like to invite the people of Dieppe to continue being caution to protect themselves. But I wish the city would send a message of condolences to our premier who lost his mother yesterday. She died. If it's possible, I think it would be appropriate for the city to send our condolences to the premier. And that's it. Thank you. It's noted.
Monsieur Godet.
Mr. Gadet,
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. J'ai
thank you, Worship.
au directeur. C'est
Only one for the administrator. It has to do with the Rotary Park. We close the hump for the rest by respect to
permettre l'ouverture maintenant
the problem that exists. Can it allow the reopening of the parking, or will the parking remain closed for the arena?
On n'a pas eu de discussion avec,
We didn't have any discussion with the service director, Mr. Burke, so for the time being, I'll come back to you with that question. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you. Unless you have, Mr. Burke, unless you have an answer tonight. In our operational plan for COVID, when we're in orange or red, it's indicated that the fence is closed. When we were in yellow, we had a lot of meetings inside the park and not only on the hill. So that's the explanation I have for the time being.
Alors, c'est tout. Moi aussi,
That's it. Okay. Similarly, the same thing I'd like to comment on. Once again, remind everybody to be caution in the present situation. We know that COVID is hidden everywhere, in every corner. We've seen some important rise during the last few days. I am convinced that we would all like to find ourselves in the green zone, but first we have to go from red to orange, orange to yellow, and I think the yellow is more acceptable. But while we wait, please continue to be cautious, to be vigilant. We'll get there. Let's be patient. We know that the vaccination are coming, but we'll have to be patient. Good evening, everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Good evening, everyone.